To order, today is Monday, August 26th, 2024. It is 4:45. We are at the Arvin Education Center, and this is the regular monthly meeting of the Oldham County Board of Education. Sir, do you have any changes to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Made by Mr. Dodson, seconded by Mrs. Clem. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Dees, will you do the Pledge of Allegiance for us, sir?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up we have an instructional session.
Yes, ma'am. First, I'd like to invite Mr. Gravis to come forward and give the board an update on personnel as we start this new school year.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Welcome, Mr. Gravis.
Thank you. Have some good news to report. If you guys have gone ahead and looked at the slideshow I have. So here are the last 6 or so years, 7 years of our staffing's ins and outs. Looking at them, and you can see, like, just comparing to last year where we lost 201 certified staff members from the end of the year to this year 161. So we're obviously going in a much better direction. Kind of looks like if it's a bell curve, we're going back down to what was previously normal, if there was such a thing. But overall, you look at the numbers, and again, not just the number of certified staff we lost, but a big concern we always have is how many staff we're losing to JCPS. Right now, we can only account for 20 certified staff members that have gone to JCPS since the end of last year. We've gained 10 from JCPS, where last year, looks like we lost 59 total to Jefferson County and only gained 15. Obviously, these numbers, as we'll get into the next slide here in a second, it's constantly in motion. There's constant change. Like, for instance, today we hired a daycare worker, and then this afternoon I posted 3 more openings. So it ebbs and flows. But these numbers are not concrete. They're very much, like I said, up and down as we go throughout the day. So far, we've lost, doesn't even register on there, but we've lost 4 teachers since the start of the school year that have asked to be released from their contract, which is really good, compared again to past years. But any questions on the overall historical numbers there before I move on?
Board members?
All right, so where we are, we've hired over the summer 178 certified teachers. 103 of those are experienced teachers. 39 are in alternative certification programs where they're working towards certification while teaching. We've got 20 brand new teachers. I talked about this last year, where that's really one of the biggest trends is, we don't see the traditional 4-year student going into undergrad in education like we used to. It's more second career people looking to make a career move of some kind is kind of the new norm, and that's where you see those large numbers of alt-cert candidates coming in. 16 emergency certified teachers. That is limited now to just 2 years that an emergency certified teacher can hold that position and or hold that certificate. And this year, no emergency certified teachers for special education or for preschool. And we'll talk about that in the next slide. We've got 10 rehires so far, and we're up to 247 active substitute teachers, which is fantastic. And we've hired 84 new classified staff since July 1st. So we're doing good. We're filling holes. We're seeing a lot of growth, as you guys have seen, in our student enrollment numbers, and that's led to some of the changes too on the next slide of having to add some teachers just in the last couple days since last Monday when this was originally prepared. Any questions on this?
Do you know, just right off, where those 20 brand new teachers, exactly where they're coming from? Like, are they local or?
Most of them are local, like U of L. We hire a lot from U of L. Like anybody from the University of Cumberland is alt-cert primarily. Mm-hmm. UK, Moorhead, a a couple from Western, Eastern. Eastern probably has one of the larger undergrad teaching programs right now compared to all the local universities or in-state universities.
Is that number pretty typical for new teachers coming?
No, I mean, no. I mean, that is steeply declined since, since COVID. Before, when I would go to like U of L's, like recruitment fair, we would have lines of people waiting to see us and come talk to us. And now we're lucky if there's like 30 total people graduating from U of L's entire program for education. So it's a drastic change. All right.
And Mr. Gravis, I would, and just share with the board, obviously, that, just to make a quick connection, that has put quite a strain on all school districts because of the candidates that are coming out of typical traditional educational programs to become teachers, obviously. And so then we have so many different pathways we're trying to create, but really just trying to elevate our school district so we can do the very best we can. We've made good progress.
Sure. All right, so on the right-hand column is where we were at on August 28th of last year and where we are a week ago, Monday, that was August 19th, to look at the comparison. So it looks like, we're just one opening down, but if you look at the numbers, big difference is our coaching openings. There's, last Monday there was 58 coaching openings, where a year ago we only had 27. And of those 58 coaching openings, 15 of those are really already closed. We're just waiting on paperwork to close those out. So that number is a little elevated. It's just, they're not closed right now because we haven't completed the entire onboarding process. Again, last Monday we only had 8 child care openings. That has fluctuated off and on this week, and before I left we were up to 12. So again, that's out of growth and just needing people to keep our child care or after school programs running. 14 ECS certified compared to 12. As I referred to earlier, the reason that's bigger is because we're no longer allowed to emergency certify special education teachers. EPSB voted to get into compliance with federal law under the Every Child Succeeds Act last February, and eliminated that as an option moving forward beginning this school year. So that has really hand-tied us and every school district on trying to fill special ed openings. It was already a pinch point in terms of trying, hard to fill positions, and then you add that on top of it where there's no longer allowed to have emergency certification. So, right now, Mrs. Brown is doing a great job of, filling those in with contract workers, and, we've got people, a lot of our ECS staff are agreeing to give up their planning period and work an extra period and get paid, but to help cover classes, to be in compliance with coverage and so forth. So we're making do. We obviously want to get that to 0, like all of our numbers, but also to, like, Dr. Brown is about ready to hire an ECS teacher, so that's, about ready to go down one. So again, numbers moving up and down.
Mr. Gravis, if I'm sorry to interrupt you again, I just share with the board, I want to make just a comment really quickly. About a week or so ago, it was right when school started, maybe the first day with students, one of the news outlets in the Louisville market made a part of our first day with students. Part of the story was that we had approximately 150 or 160 openings, and that gave the feel when that was reported that way. I watched the news that night that we had that many teacher openings, which is not accurate. And they did report the number that we had because that changes on a daily basis. All of our positions are really important, but as you can see there, it's not all teachers. And I just want to kind of point that out for everyone.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Gravis.
Yeah, and just total right now, just like at 1:30 last time I looked, we had 137 total openings, and that's certified, classified, your substitutes, your paraeducators, stuff like that. So, I mean, that number is much less. We've got 3 elementary teaching openings. That's actually gone up a little bit to 5. But again, those numbers are a little misleading. We have one of those is an interventionist teacher and one's a related arts. Not that those aren't important, but it's not like it's a first, second, third, fourth grade teacher or fifth grade teacher, kindergarten. So those positions will be filled, I'm sure, very quickly. We've got 3 high school openings. One of those being a Kappa, so we've got really just a math and a science opening at the high school level, and we have 8 middle school openings, 18 custodial openings right now. think that number is still about the same. I think we've got a couple hires that are coming in. Yeah, we're down to 16 actually. So numbers are going in the right direction. We're doing well. I think obviously, the effort by the board to increase salaries has made a huge dividend, and our employees are thankful for that and wanting to stay on. I think the cultures that our principals are building is just as much a part of that, of a place that people want to be. So it's a team effort that's making Oldham County a destination place for educators to work.
What about our speech therapists? I know last year it was a nightmare.
Yeah. I
Have
think
we
we've
made
got
any progress?
I think we've got 3. Nikki, I'm looking at you. Sorry, is that correct?
We have, right now, all of our positions are filled, whether internally or through contract.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. And I think we got one. Sorry, we've got one coming close, right? It's getting ready to come on. Did we just hire one?
There is,
Sorry.
no, we have one that might be interviewing outside somewhere, and that we might need to replace.
Okay. All right.
So currently, we have all of our positions.
They're filled in some capacity.
I'm
yes.
just restating that for the microphone. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
You didn't include bus drivers in this, is that correct? But they are included in that number, is that?
So we just have, for like bus drivers and substitutes, there's a couple other positions, like seasonal daycare workers, where we just have a mass opening instead of one opening for, like Jeff needs, 20 more bus drivers or whatever. We don't have 20 openings. I mean, that would be mass, just chaos to try to open. So it's just one opening, and as people apply for those positions, Jeff and his staff will look through those and then interview and then determine to make the recommendation to hire.
So you post one bus driver at a time, and then just as it fills, you'll
It's just
open
one
up another
posting. It's open internally. It never closes.
Got it.
And so people can keep coming through and applying. Same with subs. I mentioned this earlier too, but pinch points, not much has changed since last year. Secondary math and science are, hard to find. ECS certified and classified positions are hard to find. Our maintenance custodial always can use more help there. Transportation, transportation subs. We got a good number. We can always use more. There's never too many subs. There's never too many bus drivers, right? So that's kind of where we are.
Questions, board members? Thank you, Mr.
You're
Gravis.
welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Gravis, thank you. Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Greenwell to come forward and give the board an update about technology.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for being here.
Thank you all. So as Dr. Radford mentioned, I'm going to give a high level where we are, state of technology as a district as far as staff and student devices, Chromebooks, laptops, desktops, all the above. I'm not going to read everything on every slide. There's a lot of data there. I'm going to kind of go through it and really give opportunity at the end for questions if there are any. So what do we look like today? We have 14,000 devices in the district. We are a heavy Chromebook district, followed by Windows and iPads in that order. We have 0.8%, which comes out to be 120-ish Mac OS devices. That's the iMacs, MacBook Airs. That pie slice was just a little too small to hold that number on that slide. Drilling into just staff devices, 2,200 staff devices. Heavy on the Windows side, followed by Chromebooks. This slide appears to be the static version of this rather than the Google link. So I did have a little bit of update on that. Chromebooks, what I had reported in from schools after they've updated this was somewhere around 500 off the top of my memory for that. The iPads, actually the MacBook Airs and the iMacs, that count is 54. And the iPads for staff, that count is roughly 27-ish. For the student devices, again, this is a little bit out of date, but this gives you still a good overall number of 12,000 devices for students, heavy on the Chromebook side, followed by iPads. I'll talk about why iPads has a large number there. Then Windows and MacBook, iMacs and MacBook Airs. That 0.5%, again, that's roughly 60 total devices there. So we'll go ahead and drill in per school by level. Again, I'm not going to read all of this information to you. If you're looking, we got 12,000 devices, and what is our enrollment? You know, hey, let's match that up. Are we 1-to-1? Are we below? Are we above? We can't always do that because all of these devices have different lifespans. And specifically when we're looking here at elementary, I pulled out the iPads because grades K1, 2, some schools have chosen iPads for those. Some schools have chosen touchscreen Chromebooks. Some schools have even said, okay, K1 will be iPads while the rest are Chromebooks. So as a district as a whole, we can't look at the total number of devices versus the total students. We'd have to drill down per school, how do they actually roll in their building to determine, hey, are we good here? Do we need to go up? Do we need to go down? The second one, I'm gonna just leave this up here while I talk about the second point. The second point why we can't look at all of these schools' total devices versus enrollment is we're talking about different lifespans of these devices. We have Chromebooks at the end of their 3rd year, into their 4th year. That's really their useful life kind of date. The older they get, the poorer experiences we see in the classrooms, meaning they're gonna get slower, they're gonna start failing. iPads are, and we can see the middle schools don't have as much iPads as the elementaries. iPads, their lifespan, 6 or 7 years. So we're talking different lifespans, different usefulness for different devices.
Did you say there is a lifespan on the Chromebook yet?
The useful life of a Chromebook into the 3rd year, into the 4th year. At that point, we'll start to see diminished performance.
Aren't they at 3 years, and now they're supposed to be at 5 years? Is that the license?
So there's a 3-year warranty is usually what we get on Chromebooks. We can get a 4-year warranty.
What about the leasing program?
So leases, if you were to finance a device, Chromebook specifically, I have had different lease financial companies tell me you're not going to find anyone greater than a 4-year lease.
Trey, how much is a Chromebook? How much are we paying for one?
Roughly $250 to $350, depending on what model, what the school needs specifically.
Okay,
Touchscreens are a little bit higher than that.
thanks.
What about an iPad?
An iPad is actually a little bit, actually, I will give you a price for a touchscreen Chromebook so you can compare. Touchscreen Chromebook is maybe more like $375 to $400. iPads are roughly that same range. I believe the last I looked was roughly $390, maybe pushing $400.
What are we doing across the schools? Like, how does that vary as to who purchases those versus the leasing? Like, I know it's different at every school. So how many of these are we actually providing versus how many parents are actually leasing or purchasing on their own?
Are we talking
For example.
bring your own device?
Well-
Like North Middle leases, North High School provided.
Yes.
So it's like inconsistent, is
Yeah.
it across the, do we have any alignment?
Currently, North Older Middle is the only one that is.
Okay,
currently
that's
leased.
what I was wondering.
But what's on here are what the district owns?
What's on here is what we physically are using in our classrooms day in and day out.
And we
So
own
the
those, so
North-
this isn't,
North Middle does include assets, that count does include assets that are not ours on the books.
Does
It's what is
include.
used in the classroom.
okay.
So So you're including the Chromebook, if I've leased a Chromebook for my son or daughter or whoever, that is included in this number?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. And North Middle is a special instance where we get the devices in from the lease, but we keep them a little bit longer just for the lease scenario. So that's kind of why those numbers look a little bit higher than normal.
okay.
What do you mean keep it longer than?
We keep it longer because we have to go through the process of making the final payment, of sending them through the paperwork to actually get them off premise to
Okay.
the company. So I keep them in our inventory until we no longer have ownership responsibility for them.
'Cause
So
they're
as soon as they
leased,
leave the door, that number will go down.
Okay.
I gather this information usually in September, so this is a little bit earlier. If I provided this a little bit later, that number will be probably closer towards their
Okay.
enrollment. So, again, here's high schools. We talked about useful life. Another important piece, because it's going to tie into what I'm going to talk about in the next couple slides, is the end of life. Last date we can use these in the district. When we purchase these devices, Google, in this case for Chromebooks, tells us this is when we no longer support these devices. We follow suit and we get rid of those devices. We go through disposal of those devices so we no longer have any potential issues, security or otherwise. That is what we call end of life. So we have to balance useful life with end of life. End of life is usually 7 years, give or take. So somewhere between that 3 and 4 years and that 7 years, what is acceptable for us as a district? To get rid of the device and replace it with a new one. I do want to note here in the Arvin Center, their device numbers are a little bit higher than others comparatively because there are specialized programs over here, computer science, engineering, that we can't necessarily transfer them to other locations in the building because these programs need specific devices. Also note these blue, that's not enrollment, that's max students per session, and that fluctuates a little bit, so
I don't know.
on that piece of
Sounds
it.
like it.
So some challenges we're facing here, and I'm gonna kind of speed through some of this, not too fast, but we talked about useful life and end of life. End of life is we have to get rid of these devices, otherwise we're opening us up to some issues, some security issues or things like that. So almost all the schools are affected. In 2027 and 2029, these are the counts of devices that are going end of life. Last date they can be used in the district. All schools are affected, some more so than others. And I will say, and I'll make sure that you have the updated link. I was updating some of these numbers because some of the schools have actually came back and reported additional info to us.
20 total devices. And end of
2027, 2029 are not the only dates that we have devices going end of life. Those are just the two biggest peaks. So what are we doing with that? I have so far already information from schools that we're going to replace 1,600 devices. We'll probably get 2,500, but that's just an estimate. This is what the schools have told me so far. So you can see how that has an impact on our end of life. We'll just assume we're going to do the same thing next year. It makes more of an impact. We can continue that, just saying we continue that year to year. We never get ahead, we actually get behind in 2033, 2044. These numbers show what we currently have in the district today. No guesstimates, estimations, increase, decrease. So what can we do about that? I just sat and looked at the numbers. What if we got more aggressive on this? Doubled what we were doing. We got ahead. But what if we actually threw this into a formula? We talked about 1,400 devices in total. Everything, we talked about end of life, we talked about useful life. The longer we go past useful life, the poorer experiences we have in classrooms. So we can plot this out. The Chromebooks here, these numbers tell us that to maintain a 4-year replacement, to maintain devices that are no older than 4 years, we need to replace 1,700 devices a year. Everything up here, I've done that with, but I'm going to focus on Chromebooks. So if we follow that, that is incorrect because these, I have modified this, so I'm going to, on the fly, modify my presentation. If we add all these devices up and say 2,700 Chromebooks, 25 Mac OS, 292 iPads, 382 Windows devices, that gives us roughly 3,000 devices we need to replace a year to maintain the useful life of our devices in the district. And just continuing on, we stay ahead of this wave. This 3,000, that was the year we got behind, so that's why it's red there. And it doesn't have to be, as I kind of alluded to, it doesn't have to be this 3,000 number. It can be that 2,000 number. It can be, you can redo this every year. What is our enrollment this year? What do we need to do? We can go down to the school level, to the classroom level, if we wanted to. We can do it by grade level. More, less students, it doesn't matter. This is more a methodology. This is more of a mathematical approach of how can we make sure we stay behind the wave rather than get swallowed by it.
And Mr. Greenwell, would the board approved for us to purchase or allocate to schools $100 per student for technology? Can you just give the board a perspective about the number of devices, approximately, just approximate numbers?
Certainly. So that 1,600 number, that count, was what the schools have reported they were going to use that monies for. That is probably just a tiny bit more than half of the budget that we had allocated there. So that's how I kind of was able to guesstimate that we're probably going to get to 2,000, 2,500. So yes, so that's where we are so far. Not all schools have turned the plans in. Some of them have done a partial for what they need between now and December. That's where we stand currently, though.
Also, Mr. Greenwell, appreciate you putting this report together. I will just share with the board, we were working off of a Google spreadsheet to keep it live, and so at some point we had to download a PDF and present to the board as Mr. Greenwell kind of caught him off guard about some numbers he's been working on, updating those since the end of last week. So I just want to say that just so that you know, appreciate you putting that together. One other comment I'll make while I'm speaking into the mic is the instructional side of this, the implications, what we need to consider from an instructional perspective. I think something that we need to take into account, such as professional learning, such as screen time, and all of those kinds of things, what's age appropriate, and certainly Mr. Greenwell is just talking about technology, devices, and operationally. So I think there's another, but happy to entertain whatever questions the board may have.
Question. I'm admittedly not super savvy with technology, so I'm a little bit confused. So if we have a total of 14,316 total devices, but we're really not technically one-to-one, is that right? Is it?
Technically, yes. Well, we can look down. If we were to take all the kindergarten across the board, let's look at all the iPads that we have, and let's look in what schools use Chromebooks versus iPads. I'd say we could get very close. I would say that, well, one, it's hard to say if we're one-to-one on a day-to-day basis. Year-to-year basis, we can get closer to it. Today, I would say, yes, we are very close to one-to-one. We probably have 10,000 Chromebooks for grades 3+. So if we look at the grade levels 3+, it would be very, very close, couple of thousand off potentially. I don't know that that
Does-
answers your 100%.
If we take elementary school out of it, and we just talk about middle school and high school, does every student have the opportunity to take a Chromebook home to do homework and to study?
I don't think across the board, across the entire district, I think that there would be opportunities for students to take them home. It just depends on how long are we talking about.
Have we ever considered that as a district?
Yeah, we had put together, probably a few years ago, we had put together a couple of different plans that we were prepared to move forward on. And we actually honestly paused a little bit when we put our strategic plan together because our high schoolers, we did those student focus groups, and about 100 high schoolers across all 3 high schools really asked me could we just hit pause on the use of our Chromebooks? So that really gave us pause about implementing whatever the plans that we had in place. But I think we're at a point where we need to really consider, given where we are in our recent conversations of moving forward, and what do we need to do and what can we do?
And if I may speak plainly, am I concerned that if we do have to go on, send devices home for students? Right now, I'm not concerned. Next year, 2027, 2029, I would be concerned.
Because of the end-of-life situation?
Correct.
Okay.
When does the 2028 is when we're not allowed to use restricted monies for technology anymore? Is it 2028 or 2029?
I'm going to go off memory. I think it's 2028, Mr. Dennis, but I would have
That's
to,
what
I would have to double check that date.
So if we have 4 years to catch up with the end of life coming up, we should be able to do what, or at least talk about what Allison's speaking about. But I guess what's the long-term plan after that, once we don't have the restricted monies to use? And my second question to our high school principals, is Ms. Brown here? Ms. Brown? Do the high school kids want Chromebooks or iPads? Because when I look at colleges, like my kids at UK all uses iPads coming in.
Where do they use MacBooks? You talking about iPad?
iPads.
Yeah.
What would the high school want, the staff and to progress?
I think it's kid preference. I would say overwhelming majority at OC use Chromebooks.
Do they use them in most of the classes? So even if they don't want to use them, they're already doing it. They're using them for
They do.
most of the classes.
They do. Now, they do complain, somebody
Yeah.
mentioned that. They will complain a little bit. When we did our HQR adoption, the curriculum work that we did, the kids did say they wanted a break from Chromebooks, but it's not realistic that we take a full break. So our teacher, it's a hybrid, but it's heavy Chromebook, few iPads, not that many, honestly.
But do all of your students have their own actual Chromebook, like that they can take home at night to do homework, or?
Every kid that has signed one out for the year.
Okay.
I mean, I wish. Well, this is not the time.
No, go.
Do it.
Go.
Say it. I wish.
Yeah. What would you like?
I
Forgiveness.
wish that we required our students to do some type of lease so that we could better control like the updates.
Yes.
That, like
okay.
when testing comes, it used to be that we would have to like collect all the Chromebooks from like our seniors and freshmen so that our 10th graders have enough Chromebooks to take. I wish that we had a better handle on that. I think it'd be smoother, but that's
Like
that's
what
just
they
me.
do at North Middle, is that what you're
Yes,
referring to?
exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, because I think that seems pretty seamless.
I think we could probably reduce student fees that way too.
Yeah, because it's
Yes.
$100 a year, and if we give $100 a year per student, it's a wash.
That's what I think too.
Okay.
I'm gonna walk away.
No stay.
Thank you.
Do we always give $100 a year per student for technology?
This is the first time that we've done that, and I haven't checked how long it's been, but it's been recent memory, probably.
Is
The
that
other-
something that's sustainable?
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth, Ms. Sheffer. I was going to mention about, I think that's something that we would just have to consider about what we could sustain. How you define that will depend upon a couple of different factors. Mr. Dennis mentioned the year in terms of being able to use restricted funds, how long that stays in place. When you look at the need over the next 5 to 10 years, and so many things that are, some are within our control and some are not. So some of the plans that we have put in place did talk about some things that how we would adjust due fees with Chromebooks and perhaps parents paying some and the district doing some, and what those splits or percentages would be. But we never did completely get that ball completely down the field, as I mentioned.
So could we maybe add that to our work session?
We sure could.
To have a further conversation about that, because I would like to have it's a different topic, but the end of school date, be the end of school date, and if we could talk about that now, maybe we could potentially have that be in place for next year.
I understand. I think everything is, we talk about everything's connected to everything, and so we definitely can add that for a talking point for sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Trey.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you all.
Mr. Williams, come on down.
How are you all this evening?
Good, how are you?
Good. So, basic enrollment. Day one, you saw that we had 11,828 students. Projected was 11,694, so that's 134 over projected. Okay, which shows based on projections that we are growing again slightly. Okay, when you look at it as compared to day one of last year, we had 66 more students this year than we did at the end, the first day of school last year. If I look at day 9, which is the day we just completed today, we again projected was 11,694. We are at 11,880, so we're 186 students over projection. Okay, but we are now 20 students less than we were on day 9 of 23-24. We found a duplication at a school, and so that brought that number down slightly. Other than that, I am more than happy to answer any questions. That's the enrollment, for the first day and really for day 9. When all of this starts to play in for us is the end of the first month, which is actually not tomorrow, but this coming Tuesday from that is the end of the first school month. That will be what I base projections on that I will bring to you in October. And then the end of the second month is our growth factor report. So this might be the first year that we will see growth in probably 4 or 5 years since COVID. So,
Michael, how are you feeling about the first 9 days compared to years past? I know I went to South Oldham High School either the first or second day of school, and there was somebody there registering a kid, and the registrar, from what I could see, had several other people. So is it?
we are seeing that, and we're getting kids in and out. We do, we will still have some kids that are going to leave and go, to another school district, another state. That happens all the time. With some of the newer subdivisions coming online, we are now starting to see a little bit of that growth from them. For a while there, when we were seeing certain subdivisions were coming online, but they were like young married couples, either without kids or with very young kids. And so we weren't getting any kids from those subdivisions, and now we're starting to see that trickle effect as those kids get a little bit older.
Okay.
Hey, Mike, I'm gonna do the monkey in the room. Do you ever see us redistricting with how overcrowded South's gonna be? South Middle's overcrowded beyond belief already.
Well, I will say this because I know what's coming for South High. They're going to what, Mr. Bohannon, 1,600 capacity? So that gives them that space. I don't know how you shift those boundaries around enough middle school wise, just to redistrict middle school, without then having to recreate high school boundaries and change those again.
So
I think probably best guess right at this point is we're still probably looking at 2 or 3, maybe 4 years before we're gonna have to do anything in mass.
All right. What's the limit at South Oldham Middle? I mean, we're quite a bit over, are we not?
Well, you have the state issued capacity, okay, and that's what we have to list as the capacity for the school. But what happens in a middle school and in a high school, because teachers and kids, or primarily kids, change classes, you will have rooms that are empty in a given period. So we can do the manipulation of, okay, this teacher might have to travel on a cart, but they're going to teach in this classroom in this period, and this classroom on this in this period, so that we still use that open and available space. Where at elementary schools, those students are in the same classroom pretty much all day, and you can't do it that way. And
Makes
that's how
sense.
South High right now functions, being as over capacity as it is, because it's only slated for a capacity of, I think, 1,016 students, and it's gonna grow, so it's growing to 1,600, but that's how it does the same thing. Plus, at the high schools, you've got students that are at Arvin, you've got students that are going to JCTC, you've got students that are going to U of L, and now Kappa.
All right. So we got about 4 years.
I think so. I'll know more. Honestly, Mr. Dennis, that would be a better question to ask me once I have projections done again, and we'll see what that trend line starts to look like.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I would say too, depending on how big the new LaGrange Elementary School is, that would probably be the apt time to redistrict the entire county at one time and do elementary, middle, and high.
Can I retire before that?
Brent says no, I'm sorry, you've been denied, Michael.
All right.
Thank
y'all.
you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Next up is Ms. Alexander, and she is going to share the treasurer's report.
Good evening. This month, it's the fiscal year treasurer's report for July, so there's really not a lot of change going on here. It has the least amount of activity for all the fiscal months that we go through. Next month, you're going to see a lot more activity because at the beginning of the year, larger expenditures, salaries with everyone coming back from summer break. We've pretty much been working on closing out still everything from fiscal year 24. But we'll start with report 1. We had a beginning balance of $67.4 million, and the ending balance is $65.8 million. And then below that, you have a breakdown of our bonded construction fund with $10.2 million. And then if you look at the very bottom of that first report, you have our investment account with a balance of $15.9 million. And if you move on to report 2, it's just a breakdown, kind of a lot of the first page of the first report. It has a breakdown of all the fund balances with all the individual funds that tie back to the total amount from the front page. I'm not going to really read through all of those, but you can see how it's all broken down by fund. Report number 3, this is our historical actual report. Again, since it's the first month of July, there's not a lot going on. It's difficult to compare one month with the true historical analysis. We're not receiving any major tax revenues at this point. We will start to see those coming in the fall. And like I said, the salaries are pretty low in the summer, but to stay consistent with you, I wanted to still give you this report number 3, like we do every month. And then our next report is report number 4, and this is our 4-year revenue trend that shows you all the primary accounts and their revenues, and they are from fiscal year 22 to the current year. And finally, our last reports are 7 and 8, and that is our balance sheet and our income statement. And if you just have time to look over those, it shows a very strong fund balance. They are attached for your review. But if you you have any questions about anything, I'd be happy to answer them right now.
Board members?
Oh, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Okay, next up, we have meeting minutes to approve. Oh. Oh, sorry. Oh, I got ahead of myself, sorry. Your recommendation, sir?
Yeah, I recommend to approve the treasurer's report.
Can I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report made by Mrs. Clem, seconded by Mrs. Sheffer? All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Sorry, now we have meeting minutes. July 29th, 2024, board meeting minutes. Anybody have any changes or corrections to that? Can I get a motion to approve made by Mr. Dodson, seconded by Mrs. Sheffer? All those in favor? And that's 5-0. The next is our August 7th, 2024 special called work session. Any changes to those minutes? Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Mr. Dennis, seconded by Mrs. Clem. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Sir?
Yeah, next is the personnel report, and that report is in your packet and for the board to take under advisement.
Thank you, sir. Next up are consent items.
Yes, ma'am. Consent items as presented in your packet, I would recommend the board to approve those as presented.
Board members, questions?
Can we talk about the fees
Yes.
for that consent item?
Yes. So one clarification about the fees. One of the board members had reached out, and I think Ms. Clem had asked me about fees, and I wanted to clarify. There are the fees that are highlighted in yellow are new fees, primarily. They have, these are clubs or activities that are mainly, are new, and so they were not presented in the board to approve a few months ago. So I know that the board is very interested in about fees and how we could reduce that for our parents. I have heard those comments from parents myself. What I would propose is that we as a district, that we dig into how we could, such as Chromebooks, how we could reduce Chromebook fees and how we could do that and make those discussions, presentations, recommendations, and do that this year as we thinking about heading into next year. And I know Ms. Dalton is here and she can answer a few questions about some of the highlighted fees, because what is presented is only what is consideration is what's in yellow, not all of those, because the board's already approved those.
Have the ones in yellow already been collected? No. None of them?
Thank you, Ms. Dalton.
So some of the ones in yellow are brand new clubs, so they have not been collected because they have not been approved. Now, some of the ones, just a few of them, like track and cross country, they were increased by $15. That would stand as is for this year. It'd be more for next year. So nothing has been collected, but you have, of course, with 2 new principals, and then with a strategic plan and thinking about how do we get kids connected, you have some new clubs, Atlas Club at South, you have Dragon Digest, Student Council, Speech and Debate, Disc Golf, all of those are brand new to those buildings.
So they're mostly clubs. There's no educational.
No, they're all clubs, and a few are, now KY and Kuna did increase by $25 across all 4 middle schools, and that is because of the cost of the hotel room.
But it's not like day-to-day.
No, none of it is instructional. It was all just clubs.
I will say, add this and share this perspective with the board. We've really worked with our school principals, with all of us as leadership, how we can ensure that every student's connected to something outside the classroom, where a lot of the clubs come from, some of the new ones.
Are we doing this in a work session coming up, going over fees?
Next
We
year's
talked
fees.
about that today. I think you're going to
Yes.
add that to the work session as well. Is that
Yes,
correct?
to discuss fees. So what is, we can serve at the pleasure of the board in terms of you want to approve this tonight, or if you'd like to have further discussion on it. What's presented is for the board to approve. Regardless, this needs to be something I know that's important to several of our board members, and as I mentioned, several of our parents have said something to me. I think that needs to be something that we continue to work on, and how we can reduce those costs for fees. That will be it's a sizable project, but it's something that we need to take steps to address.
I have one ask though, because special meetings we're not, I don't believe we could have public speakers. But I do think if we're going to talk about fees, that if some people want to come in and tell us their stories, I would love to accept that, since we get the same complaints you're getting. So, is that doable?
It is, and what we can do is we can talk to some of our leaders, or we can open that for anyone that wants to come and speak or share. We can get some perspectives to share with the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, your recommendation, sir?
Yes, I recommend to approve.
Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Mr. Dennis, seconded by Mrs. Clem. All those in favor? And that's 5-0.
Okay, thank you, board members. Next up is superintendent reports. I've lost my place on my agenda. I think that's correct. Yes, 9A.
Yep.
So first up is superintendent reports, and in your packet is KSBA policies, and this is from our last work session. You have 3 policies that are presented to you for a first reading. First is election of board officers, and the adjustment to that is election of officers each year starting in January. The second policy is public expression, and that's addition of new language that talks about board, the entire board working together. And I think Ms. Hunley may have some information to share about that. And then travel expenses for board members, that's the third policy that is presented for a first reading tonight.
On the public expression one, Jane, we need to change under time and place. We got the margin there, but it needs to be changed for the next school year versus for the calendar year, since we don't do it for the calendar year. Board members, do you all have any other questions or changes or? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Next up is awards update. I'd like to invite Ms. Webb to come forward and share with the board about our awards and how we tried to work to streamline that. That's aligned to our strategic plan and part of our rebranding.
Hello, I'm excited to share with you a couple of new awards. As Dr. Radford just said, it's part of the strategic plan. If you look at the first bullet point under each one of the pillars on the strategic plan, you'll see a keyword there, and it's valued. So we want all of our 4 pillar groups to feel valued: students, staff, parents, and community. So therefore, I led the engagement work group where we were tasked with coming up with some new awards to show these groups that they are valued. So we came up with 2 new awards in this group. The first one is the Ignite Passion Award. So this one is going to be something that is presented here at board meetings, and we'll start that next month. There is a schedule for each school, so each month we'll have about 2 to 3 schools that will present this award. And this is an award that can go to any one of those 4 pillars. It can be staff, it can be a student, it can be a community member, it can be a parent, PTA person, anything like that. So this will go to someone who ignites passion within the school community. So we're excited about that. There's other criteria that's kind of spelled out in the information that I gave to you in the board packet. So the second award is our Experience Excellence Award, and this one we're really excited about. We call this one kind of our Publishers Clearinghouse because we're going to surprise this person. This goes to a staff member in a school building, and we'll kind of like go into their classroom or wherever, it's not necessarily teacher, wherever their workplace is, and surprise them for making balloons. And we have really nice awards that we've picked out for both of these actually. And we would love for board members to come with us when we do that. We're going to start that next month. So I will share that schedule with you, who the recipient will be, the date and the time that we do those, and we'd love to have you come along to help us surprise that person. So the Experience Excellence Award, as I mentioned, this is for staff members only, and this is for staff members within a school community who go above and beyond to ensure that everyone has, or that they get to experience excellence in the Oldham County School District. So this is a nomination by administrators and directors. We'll have a review committee at central office that will review these submissions and pick the winner each month. And so we're just really excited to get get moving with this. We've got the engagement work group that will continue this year, so we're going to look for additional ways to make these groups feel valued, and if we need to tweak anything in the process with these 2 awards, then we'll do so as we go throughout the year. So those are our 2 awards, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Board members? Sounds exciting and fun.
Okay, thanks. Love to see you all out for those Experience Excellence Awards.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Webb. All right, next is our summer PD report, and invite Dr. Smith to come forward and share that update with the board.
Good afternoon. In your board packets, you had a summary of feedback that we got from teachers and who participated in summer PD that was organized at the district level. I grabbed a few photographs from some of the sessions because I think that's always nice to see teachers engaged in learning. What we tried this year that was a little bit different than things that we've done in the past is to sequence our district professional learning so that teachers felt engaged and were also learning from their fellow teachers. So if we could go to the first, or maybe I can go to the first slide, right here. First thing that I did was we gave teachers a Likert scale. We said a 1, this is a terrible experience, a 5, this was excellent and helped me learn at a higher level. What you see across the top are all the 5s we got from each of the days. Starting with the teacher onboarding, content days, and others. The green bar is a level 4, and so across the 5 days of PD that we did, 80+% of teachers told us that it fell into the 4 or 5 range, which really made us feel like we had stuck the landing here on these activities. For teacher onboarding, this was a view from where you sit. We had 175 teachers, plus principals, coaches, and others in this room. And what we were trying to do differently over the last 2 years compared to what we've done in the past is to actually set the tone for all new teachers joining Oldham County schools rather than have them meet us and then go back to their home schools and just learn in silos. We're trying really hard to create a consistent experience for new teachers. And so here we did some activities. We had the superintendent team and others introduce themselves, and then teachers learned about things like our PLC structures and how we teach the different contents that we teach across our campuses, and it was all hosted here for the day. One of the quotes that a teacher told us from our onboarding program was that meeting first-year teachers and learning together about teaching strategies and engagement techniques was really beneficial. All the presenters were enthusiastic and engaging, hearing from veteran teachers and listening to their advice, and they just sort of went on about the things that they felt were really good. These were the main themes that had come up, that they appreciated the chance to network and collaborate, and that we differentiated our sessions based on how many years of experience they had. First-year teacher, fresh out of college, does not need the same thing that a teacher joining our district from another county would need. If we go to the next set of days, we looked and we knew that all of our K-5 teachers were learning the new reading curriculum that we spent the whole winter and spring identifying. Our secondary teachers, though, needed something a little bit different. In the past, some have not felt like they've gotten the opportunities that others have. So we've divided up each of the main contents, and on our content day, I was running the social studies group, so I had easy access to these teachers over at North Oldham High School. We broke them up by the content that they taught and also the level. And in this case, you see them looking at things that were factual predictions, evaluating and analyzing different claims. They worked, and actually we modeled for them what the strategy was, then we let them try it. And then rather than just say, I hope you enjoyed this, take it back to your room, we gave them bags with all the materials that they had used so they could take it right back to their class and use it with their students. This is a picture that's called a hexagon activity where you write events in history, and then each of the teachers as students connected those events together on the table and said, wow, this is a really great way to make connections. Here's a bag of hexagons. Take them back to your classroom. Use them with your students. And the feedback we got from these teachers was that it was great that you actually gave me the tools to go and be a highly effective teacher back in my home school. Related arts teachers often feel isolated on their campuses because they don't have sometimes many collaborative partners. Here is every related arts teacher in our county over at the Arts Center. Matt Watkins led this group and got them into teams, and we needed a room as large as possible so they could all sit together and collaborate together. These are some of the themes that came out of what they had told us, just that they really appreciated us giving them the opportunity to learn from their peers in the same content area. We had our first ever Ignite conference. So we say Ignite Passion, Experience Excellence. Here you see Dr. Radford speaking to a room full of secondary teachers. Together, he and I welcomed them to this conference, and we wanted this to not just be a welcome to North High, go find your room. We actually printed everyone a name tag. We had them sign up for the courses that their colleagues had developed, so they got to sign up for sessions that were run by teachers, and then we printed out individual, like the session-by-session agendas for them. We invited food trucks to come so that they didn't have to leave the North Campus, and we alerted every restaurant in the region that we had all these people that are going to come, and I'll order Chinese food from you at this one very small Chinese restaurant in Prospect. What we heard from all of these teachers through all of these sessions was basically we had a big push on artificial intelligence. We know that that's going to be something that we're working on this year to get our students ready for how artificial intelligence is integrated into our schools. We heard a lot about engagement. We heard they appreciated choice, and also that we brought in sessions around special education, mental health, social emotional learning, those sorts of topics. It was a really great summer. We did a lot of really good work with teachers, and we got great feedback from them. Any questions?
Do you think you'll do the Ignite conference again? I remember when you told us about it a few months ago. I thought it seemed really cool.
I don't only think that we will do it again, but I think that we the gears are turning for us, that we may invite teachers from the OVEC region to come, to pay to register and come and learn with us. We might have one day where we invite outside groups to come, and then one day for just our teachers. Something that I believe passionately about, and I think my colleagues here would agree, is that we lead the state in so many ways that it's time for us to share our best practices with others. And that conference was a simple example where, I mean, the feedback we got from people was so good, they are asking, are we doing it again? And so I think the answer is absolutely.
Good.
I have to share a story with everyone. The team has heard me say this, I think maybe most of the principals, but district team, is for new teachers here in this room, as you heard Dr. Smith say, we had new teacher orientation, so people who were new to the district, could be new to teaching or new to our district. So we were done, it was a full day, it was a great day. And I stand there at the end and I'm just telling everyone, hey, have a great year, and just thanking them for coming or whatever. And this gentleman stops me, or he walks by me, comes right back, and he says, Dr. Radford, he says, I have spent 21 years in a district in a different state, and this is my first week in Oldham County, and this place is amazing. He said, today was awesome. He said, I've never seen so many happy people before in my entire life. And I thought that was such an attribution to and attributed to so many people's hard work, whether that be our principals, our district staff, everyone across the board. So I just thought it was definitely worth sharing. So thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, recognitions.
Okay.
I'm gonna go take their pictures.
Okay.
I have a small group, so thank you to recognize. All right, we have a small group of folks to recognize for this evening. So first, I'd like to recognize our communications department. At the beginning of the 2023 school year, our communications department revamped the Oldham County Schools employee newsletter. This newsletter received a new look, a new name, and greatly expanded the content provided to the Oldham County School employees. This summer, our communications department duo of Lori Webb and Heather Peters received the highest award from the National School Public Relations Association for that newsletter, the Oldham Insider. NISPRA's publication and Digital Media Excellence Award recognizes outstanding education publications and marketing for informational materials. The Oldham Insider received a rating and award of excellence in the newsletter category. Please help me give them a big round of applause.
Please come up and get your picture taken. Could you just shift a little bit so we can see the logo in the background? Thank you.
Okay, we have two more recognitions. Our next recognition, I believe that this gentleman's unable to attend this evening, but I will still recognize him. It's for KMEA Middle School Teacher of the Year. We are thrilled to announce that Mr. Tony Wise has been named the Kentucky Music Educators Association District 5 Middle School Teacher of the Year. Mr. Wise is celebrating his 21st year in education, with 20 of those incredible years shaping young musicians at Oldham County Middle School. This prestigious honor is a testament to his dedication, passion, and outstanding contributions to music education. His commitment to his students and his craft has left a lasting impact on countless lives, inspiring a love for music that will resonate for generations to come. I don't think Tony is here this evening. Please help me give him a round of applause anyway. All right, got one more group before we move on. I do want to take a moment and introduce our new principals. Their leadership, vision, and commitment to excellence are already making a significant impact on our schools. So when I call your name, please stand. Most of you are here this evening. Candace McDaniel is our interim principal at Goshen Elementary. Craig Grimm, East Oldham Middle School. Kendra Whittick, South Oldham Middle School. Rush Sullivan, North Oldham High School. I don't think Rush is here this evening. So I appreciate all of our leaders and especially our new ones. They, not unless they dug into the packet before they got here this evening, they did not know that I was going to recognize or read their names. So thank you for working with me. So Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you and the board.
Thank you. Just to piggyback off that, I just want to thank all of our principals that are here for all of your hard work, both over the summer and gearing up for this school year. I think we've had a really great start to the school year. I know my kids have, and I've heard a lot of positive feedback also from staff on the things that you've been doing at your school. So really, really appreciate all of the hard work and time and hours that you all have put into our kids and our staff. It's very much appreciated, so thank you. No one signed up for public expression? Okay.
Don't have to read it.
Okay, just want to say, we had a sign-up sheet. No one signed up for it, so that no one says we skipped it. We did not skip it. No one has signed up for it.
So, Madam Chair, next for our board members is informational items, and that is as presented in your packet to take under advisement.
Thank you. Executive session. Mr. Dodson, will you please read our statement?
As soon as it comes up here.
Okay.
Consider executive session pursuant to KRS 61.810(1)C to discuss litigation, preparation, or defense. The public disclosure of which would jeopardize the board's position, KRS 61.8101(b), deliberations on future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency, but only when publicity would be likely to affect the value of a specific piece of property to be acquired for public use or sold by a public agency. At this time, I need a motion to go into executive session to KRS 61.810(1)C to discuss litigation, preparation, or defense, the public disclosure of which could jeopardize the board's position. KRS 61.810(1)B, deliberations on the future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency, but only when the publicity would be likely to affect the value of a specific piece of property to be acquired for public use or sold by a public agency.
Can can I have a motion to go into executive session? Made by Mrs. Sheffer, seconded by Mr. Dennis. All those in favor? And that's 5-0.